Thanks, Jeff. Hi, everyone. My name is Gina, and I'm part of the Momento Pro customer service team. I'm here today to take you for a walk through our software. I'm just going to open up my share screen function now. Let me just find software. Sorry, a bit of technical difficulty is always expected. Here we are. So we open up firstly with the Momento Pro start screen when you first launch our software. And in here, you'll see the different products that we offer. So we have flush mount albums, photo books, and different stationery products that you can design with us. For the example today, I'm going to select the photo books button. Then you'll have the different binding types that we have. So we have a whole range of different options that you can choose for your photo book. They are dictated by the size and shape that you choose, as well as the paper stock. So it's always best to have a quick look on our website before going through that. So I'm going to select side sewn today. In there, we then get to choose the different shapes that we have. So we offer landscape, portrait, and square in 3 different sizes as well. I would say that landscape is our most popular option, so that's what I'm going to choose. In there, we have the different sizes that we offer. Just so you know, if you were to choose grand, you can order smaller on our website. However, if you were to choose the size like regular, you won't be able to order a grand size on our website, but there is a way to change the size of a project once you've started it inside of the Momento Pro software, and I'm going to show you that in a few minutes. Today, I'm just going to select grand. You'll have a few different auto layout options. So the software does have the capability to lay a photo book out for you if you don't have the time to put one together. So there's different grids and templates that you can choose from. You just simply select a folder of photos, and then from there it will kind of lay it out for you. But I do find that most people like to go with a manual option and design the photo books themselves. This is a really important button and function to be aware of. So the auto enhance feature is something that can bring a bit of contrast and saturation to images. However, if you have edited your images in an external software like Lightroom, Photoshop, InDesign, it's best to probably not use this function because it's kind of like double editing. It's just not needed if you've already edited your images, and it can sometimes have a funny effect on images if they have been edited already. So because the images I'm going to be using are edited, I'm going to say no to this function for today. So once that's loaded up, you'll see that you have a front cover, a back cover, and page 1 inside of the software to begin with. So I have actually already pre-prepared a project, but I thought firstly I'd just show you the main things, which is loading a folder of photos into the software. So you can do that by heading over to the Photos panel. And this section is our content area. So that includes photos, backgrounds, any frames, embellishments, and layouts. The top along here is navigation. So I could go back to the start page if I wanted to by clicking on this start button here. Sort, layout, preview, and that's a way to just have a quick flip through my photo book. And then export, which is a really important button to keep in mind. From there, there's also our tools panel on the right-hand side. And this kind of side of the software is more for functionality. So if you're wanting to make small changes to a page, you also have your uploader and updater panel in here, which are important, and I'll explain a bit later on. But firstly, loading a folder of photos. So you'd click on the folders button up here. That's going to load in a browse for folder box. So in there, I will just head to where I've saved the folder of photos on my computer. I have a folder on the desktop, so I'm just going to select that there. And then down here, I have a folder called Photos, and I can simply just select that folder and click Open, which is great. Everything will load down on the left-hand side for me there. So I'm just going to open up the project that I've already started. File, Open Project is what I've clicked on. I head to the desktop, that's where I've saved my project. I'm just going to select my MBK file. An MBK file is your saved project file. As soon as you click Save in the Momento software, this file is generated and you can open it up to continue working on a project. Again, I'm going to say no to this button here. So we've already gone through the interface and navigation, but I will just quickly show you how to save a project because it's one of the most important things that you do when you first open up your photo book and start working on it. It's as simple as clicking File, Save. When you first click Save, you'll have this kind of Save As function appear where you can give your project a name and choose the location that you save it to. And it's pretty important that you do keep in mind where you've saved your project. Otherwise, it might be hard finding it later on to continue working on it. So I usually choose the desktop or the documents folder because they're pretty easy locations. Then you just click the Save button. So now that we're on the very first page of a project, you'll probably find, as you saw before, we had one page that you'll want to add some more in. So there's a few ways to do that. There's a kind of plus symbol here that you can click on to insert a new page. Once you've clicked on that, it'll ask you how many pages you want to add. I can change that number if I really wanted to. And I can also choose where I'd like them to add in. So after a certain page, after the last page in a project, or before another page. That same functions and the functions that you see along here and in the tools panel, as well as right-clicking on a page, all of those functions also live at the very top of the screen in the File menu. So the next thing that I probably want to have a look at is adding some text inside of the software. Again, you can also click on the text button up here to add text, but I prefer to use this little Add Text button just here. So to do that, I do one left click on Add Text. I then move my mouse onto the page, and you'll notice that my mouse now becomes a crosshair. And why that is because it allows me to click and drag out to create the size of the text box that I want. Once I've got a size that I like the look of, I release my left click and it'll bring up an edit text box. In here, I can type in text. And then I can also set the font, so change the font of this. The Momento software doesn't have any fonts of its own. It will load the fonts that you have available in your font book. So if you don't see one that you like in here, you can just download one from a website that you like for text. So for this, I'm going to use Proxima. That's one of my favorites. And because this is a title page, I'll probably want to make it nice and big. I'm going to head out to 48. Click OK now that I've picked that. You'll notice my text has now changed. Might also add the year that I went away. Just because a title page, it's always nice to have a bit of an intro. Now that I've added this text to the page, I can move it around. I can also right click on it and select an Align to Page option where I can center it on the page. So now that I know that that text is perfectly centered on that page. And because I've made changes, I'm going to click the Save icon here. So another important thing to know is how to add a photo to a page. You can do that by clicking and dragging. But we'll probably want to have a photo that's a bit more cohesive with the image on the other side. So if I'd like to get rid of a photo on a page, I just click the Delete key. This one looks a bit more appropriate. Now that I've got the photo on the page, it might not look exactly how I want it to. So I can use these green arrows here to click and drag outwards, make it smaller, make it bigger on a page. I can then also use these red arrows here to crop my images. So I might want to take a little bit away from there. Maybe make it a bit bigger. And once I'm kind of done making those edits, I just left click on a kind of blank spot on the page and it will deselect from there. Centering the image, again, I just right click, select Align to Page and center. Now I know that that image is perfectly centered on the page. One thing to be really aware of when working on a Momento Pro project is that the software will source images from your source folder that I have on my desktop. So if I was to change the location of that folder, the software is going to forget where my images are. It's really similar to how Lightroom or Photoshop work. So I won't change that location of folders on my desktop until I'm done with this project, maybe even until I've received the book back in my hands and I'm happy with it and don't want to make any more edits to my photo book. So one thing that we can also try is adding a background to the page. To do that, I click on the Backgrounds panel up here. And you'll notice that a few colours load up for me. If you don't have any colours that you like the look of in here, you can go over to our updated panel and you'll be able to install some new content if you really want to. So to add a background to a page, I just click and drag onto the page here. Now I think that that black background looks a little bit harsh against that image. So if I want to remove it, I just right click on the black background, select the clear background button, and it'll turn it into a smaller square on the page that I can just left click and delete. What might look a bit nicer is adding a frame around this image. So to do that, I just click on the frames menu here and I click and drag the frame onto the image. That looks a little bit nicer. So on the other page here, we've got an image that we want to set as background or fill it out over the entire page. And this is a really good thing to do with like your hero shots, so photos that you know really blow people away. So to do that, I usually right click on my photo and select the size 2 option, and that will fill page. But you can also use the tools panel down here to do the same thing. It's going to come up with an option, and there's 2 ways that you can fill an image to the full page. One is with fill page, but when we do that, you'll notice that I have the option to move my image around the page again. The reason that I don't like that is because I could accidentally click and drag that photo and kind of move it around without even knowing, and then the photo book I've received might not look exactly how I wanted it to. So when I want to set a photo as background, I'll select right click and set photo as background. That actually locks the image in place. So now there's no chance of me accidentally moving it, but it's okay if you kind of go, oh, look, this isn't the image I want there anymore. You just right click and select clear background. So we've got a really nice image here that we want to maybe make a full span on a page. So to do that, I'll click and drag over here and then select my fill page option. Now, say for instance, I wanted to try and make it a little bit bigger, I wanted to have a focal point. I can use my green arrows. What I might find though, is that when an image has been stretched over 100% of its original size, I'll get a quality warning. That quality warning is there to let you know that this image may not print how you like. It may print pixelized or a bit blurry, and we recommend that it be made smaller on the page to avoid that from happening. So I'll just drag it down until that goes away, and then I just reset it in place again. Because I've made some changes to this project now, I'm just going to click my save button. So applying a layout to a photo book is pretty easy inside of our software. We use our content area up here and click on the layouts button. In there, you'll see a bunch of different layouts appear on the page for me. And if I like one of them, all I have to do is click and drag it onto the screen. But say for instance, if I would have preferred this image be in this spot, I can click and drag it over there and I can swap it around. So quite simple to do. Again, you can just click and drag into the other photo and it will swap it around. Another thing that might be handy to do with certain images so that you can give a bit of context to them is to add a caption. To do that, I've just selected the photo and double clicked in that small blue space in there, and it's brought up an edit text box. I can write any text I like, choose where I'd like it to be centered, maybe to the left if it's a caption as well. And again, set font in there to choose a font that's more appropriate. Once I clicked OK, that text just appears in the bottom of that image there. If you're having trouble kind of seeing a project when you're working on it, you can also change the view. So we're in double page view at the moment. You can head into single page view, makes it nice and simple. Or if you want something that's even more zoomed in, you can click on the tab key. That takes us right in and lets me work on that project. I just click tab again to exit out of there. So a really big thing that I'm aware of is choosing a layout that's best for an image. Because we're working on a landscape photo book, I have a portrait photo here. This image probably isn't going to be best to set as a background. I lose a lot of quality in the image and I'm also really zoomed in. So it's not best. I'm just going to clear the cropping on that photo. And maybe I might choose one of the layouts here that looks best. So that's a nice finish on the image. If I like another layout, again, I just click and drag it over there. So on the other page here, we have what we call an edge warning. These are really important to address in the software. The reason why is that when we drag a photo over the page, we have a few different margins. The dotted area here is our safe area. So if you have any important content like people's faces, text, we want to make sure that it's remaining in the dotted lines. If it exceeds the dotted lines and goes right over, then you won't have an edge warning if it's gone to the very, very edge of the page. If it's kind of sitting somewhere in between, like we can see here, there's a little bit of white space. We've got that edge warning. What we're letting you know is that this image hasn't yet reached the very edge of the page. And when we print that photo book and guillotine it, there's a risk of there being a white sliver between where the photo ends and where the page ends, which doesn't always look great. So an easy fix to this edge warning is to right click on that photo and just set it as background. My edge warning has now disappeared and that photo is fully lit on the page. Just going to click my save button. So now we're at the end. We might want to go back to our first cover and back cover. The reason why is that I find it hard to design a cover before I've actually designed my internal pages. It's hard to know how to kind of introduce a photo book before I know what it's really about. So if I head back to my front cover, I would say that the best thing to put in there is a really iconic image. I can already think of one. This is a great one from Libby and Jeff's trip. So if we head to landscapes, which were there, I'm just using that recent drop-down menu to toggle between the different folders that I've loaded in, by the way. I click and drag this photo onto the page. It's a great one. Right click on that, and I'm going to set the photo as background again. A nice big opening. Now, what you're probably noticing is that my dust jacket flap and also my spine is still white at the moment. And I think that looks a little bit strange against this beautiful orange dirt. So I'm going to click the background button up here, just next to where the add text button is. And I'm going to use this pipette symbol here to choose a color that's a bit more appropriate because I don't think any of these quite fit what I'm looking for. Now all I need to do is just hover over a color. If I like it, I left click on it and it sets it. I can always go back to white if I want to, or click on that pipette symbol again. Then I just click OK. If I'd like to add some spine text to the book, I just double click in this spine text area. And again, I can set the font if I want to, then I just click OK. So now when my book is on my bookshelf, I can see what's on the spine. I think it's really important to remember when designing a photo book what the end product is, which is a finished photo book. So I'm always keeping that in mind when I'm designing. So an extra that we have for photo books are dust jackets. Keep in mind that if you decide not to order a dust jacket with your photo book, the content in this area will not appear anywhere on the book. But I do think it's a nice addition if you want to add a bit of a blurb about the author of the book or the photographer, a bit about what the book is, where it was, and why you decided to create the photo book. It adds a really nice professional touch. And I think the back cover is also a really important place to look at. Finish with a nice iconic photo. It's just as important as the opening of the book because it's the ending of your photo book. But once we finish designing everything, we click our save button and then we head to export up here. When you head to the export page, it's going to ask you to give your project a title, which I've already got in there. And it's also going to let you know about any warnings. So if I'd left any edge warnings or quality warnings on my photo books, they would appear in here. Once I've addressed any warnings, I can see that I've got a blank page at the moment. I click on that little arrow and it lets me know where it is. If I want to change that, I just go back to layout, head to page 7, and in there I can click on my delete pages button here. Save those changes and head back to export. I don't have enough minimum pages now, but that's okay. I'm going to ignore that for now because I already have a pre-exported project. So I'm just going to minimize this screen and make a new share with you guys. So this here is the proof PDF file. When you export your project, two new files are created. A proof PDF file for you to check over and make sure you're happy with everything. It's going to have the name of your project followed by the word proof in capitals. It's also going to create a master file, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So when viewing these files, we recommend viewing them at 100%, and you can scroll downwards to just have a look through the project. I just keep a keen eye on anything, making sure everything looks correct, and I'm happy with that project. Once I'm done with that, I just exit out of my PDF file using the X button there, and I head back to the Momento Pro software. From here, we'll want to go to the Uploader panel on the right-hand side. I'd select my master file, and the master file is the file that you upload to us. So you won't be able to open it on your computer. The master file will have the name of your project followed by master in capitals. So you can see here, I've got my master file on my desktop. It'll be saved in the same location as where my MBK file was saved. And that's the same thing with my proof PDF file, which you can see there. I select that, click open. I then just put in my Momento Pro login details and I click the Start Upload button. This process can take a little while. The exporting is usually around 30 to 60 seconds per page, and uploading is usually based on your internet connection, but if it's quite a large project, it can take up to 10 to 15 minutes. From there, I would then head to the Momento Pro website once my upload is complete. So I'll just take you guys there now. So here is my Momento Pro account, and we can see my project has been uploaded with the order button here. Now, I'm not the best person to take you through the different options of what you should select for your photo book, so I'm going to hand it over to Liz now to take you through the different product options that we have. Thanks for your time, guys.